The moment I was dragged out from under the bed by the hideous man, my body was shaking like a sieve. He pinched my neck with one hand and snatched my phone with the other hand. His fierce and dark eyes stayed on it for a few seconds. The black screen reflected his terrible face. The cold and gloomy tone froze my limbs. Want to call the police? I just killed a man from the last house. I think you don't want to live either. As soon as the words fell, he threw my body and my back hit the bedside table. The severe pain in my back made me grimace. I endured the pain and dared not shout or cry, saying words of begging for mercy. Please let me go. I can give you money if you want. The criminal approached with a sneer on his mouth, and I saw that he had a long knife wrapped in cloth tied around his waist, and the soles of his shoes were also stained with a dark crimson, as if it was coagulated blood. Thinking of what he just said, I retreated in fear. I saw that the corners of his mouth were smiling more frighteningly, like a bloodthirsty Shura seeing the excitement of prey. He squatted down, raised his hand and slid it across my face. It would be a pity to kill such a beautiful person directly. I have a better plan. After he finished speaking, his hand slid to my collar, and with a tearing sound, the cloth on my chest was torn into pieces. But in an instant, I also picked up the glass lamp on the bedside table and smashed it hard at him. The man covered his forehead in pain. I took advantage of his distraction and hurriedly got up and ran out the door, but he grabbed my hair and fell again. My forehead hit the corner of the bed, and warm liquid flowed down. My whole head was numb, and I felt pain everywhere, but the man was not in good condition either. He stood in front of me with his bleeding forehead covered, looking down at me, and his eyes were even more bloodthirsty and vicious. You stinky bitch, I'm tired of living with you. I didn't plan to kill you today, but now I've changed my mind. He took out a long knife and approached me. I moved back a little bit with my body shaking. At this time, fear has made my body numb, and only the pain in my head and back reminds me that death is so close to me. There is no way to retreat. When the man walked to my chest, he raised the long knife in his hand. Seeing the sneer on his mouth, I closed my eyes in despair. At this moment, along with the falling knife, all my expectations for Ethan in my heart were completely dead. There were 2 sounds of broken glass, but I didn't feel the pain I imagined. I opened my eyes and saw that the man's wrists and legs were bleeding, and the long knife was knocked to the side. He looked at me with vicious and unwilling eyes, and fell down while covering his pain. As I hurriedly ran away, the entrance door was also smashed by someone, and I was saved. Late at night, I was treated and recorded in the hospital under the care of the police. They praised me for calling the police in time, which gave them enough time to dispatch and deploy the police, so that they could catch the wanted criminal of the serial murder case who had been chasing for half a year. I drank the warm water handed to me by the nurse, and my hand holding the cup was still trembling. Recalling the life and death moment just now, I felt fear and terror, but also a sense of calmness after escaping a disaster. After taking the statement, the police prepared to leave. A female police officer held a mobile phone with a sigh on her face. Miss Lena, your husband's phone is all turned off. Do you have any other way to contact him? I pulled my pale lips and shook my head, indicating that there was no need to call. The police officers looked at each other, said some words of advice, and left. The ward suddenly became deserted. I held the broken screen of the phone in a daze for a long time, and then turned on the phone. A photo flashed on the screen. This was a photo posted by Chloe an hour ago. Ethan was sleeping intimately on her shoulder. His face was quiet and relaxed, and his frowning brows were smoothed. The caption, "You are still the same as before. You can only sleep so peacefully by leaning on me." The affectation of the text hinted at how warm their time was that I had never seen. I remembered that when Ethan first married me, he always had nightmares and couldn't sleep well in the middle of the night. I tried many Chinese and Western medicine treatments to treat his sleep, but they didn't work. Ethan, who couldn't sleep well in the middle of the night, liked to smoke on the balcony, and he would smoke all night. And sometimes I would watch him smoke there silently all night. Now I understand that it's not that my medicine is ineffective, but that people are different. If someone changes, they can recover without medicine. I clenched my still shaking hands, feeling uncomfortable and laughing at myself. Suddenly, the screen of my phone lit up again, and a message popped up. The next day, because the case of the wanted criminal was serious, many online media reported on this incident. The entrance of the hospital was crowded with reporters from TV stations, who were communicating with the security guards to go in for interviews. With the help of the hospital, I moved to a quiet ward to recuperate, and also made an appointment with a divorce lawyer. On the screen of the mobile phone, the incoming call was flickering. After being hung up, the record of the 30th missed call was displayed, and the word "husband" was displayed on it. Lawyer Henry adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses and confirmed again in a gentle voice, "Miss Lena, if you really want a divorce, according to what you said, you can get what you asked for, but are you really sure?" I turned off the phone with a faint smile and nodded seriously. "I want to go through the divorce procedures as soon as possible, the sooner the better. Lawyer Henry is very efficient, and I got a satisfactory divorce agreement in a short while. After restarting my phone, I opened WeChat. Ethan's dialog box was popping up messages. I didn't open it to read it, but sent him the divorce agreement directly, with the word divorce attached. Looking at the last message in the dialog box, I smiled speechlessly. Ethan said in a tone like educating a child, "Lena, don't be willful, answer my call quickly, don't make me worry." I laughed sarcastically at the words, "don't be willful," on it. I have been married to Ethan for 3 years, and the words he said to me the most are, "don't be willful." Chloe came back in the first year of our marriage. At their class reunion, Chloe dressed up like a flower of jailing, and her exquisite appearance was admired by her classmates. Although Ethan held my hand throughout the whole party to avoid ignoring me, his eyes still unconsciously drifted towards Chloe, and there were even emotions in his eyes that I was familiar with. He was enduring not to look at her. I was not unfamiliar with Chloe. When I was dating Ethan, his friends pulled him and whispered to him, "Have you given up waiting for Chloe?" Ethan was silent for a while and whispered a few words. I couldn't hear clearly outside the door, and only heard the words, "Is there hope?" Later, Ethan also confessed to me that Chloe was his ex-girlfriend, but they had broken up and had no contact, so I didn't think too much about it. He said it openly, without a trace of concealment. Based on the principle of not pursuing past matters, I did not dig too much into Chloe's affairs. But the moment I really saw her in person, I still felt the breath of danger. Chloe was going to join Ethan's company as a secretary, and I got angry and said that she had to be transferred to another department. Ethan hugged me and swore in a doting and comforting manner, "Lena, we are married now, do you not believe me or our feelings? You can't let others lose their jobs for something that didn't happen, don't be willful, I will always have only you." I looked at Ethan's serious oath and had no words to refute. Indeed, since Chloe appeared, my trust in him has slowly collapsed. For example, after Chloe knew what I cared about, she came downstairs of my company with red and swollen eyes and asked me to give her a way to live. She complained in a wrong tone, "I am not the kind of person you imagine, Ethan and I are already a thing of the past, and you are also married, what else do you have to worry about, I just want a job." She was very sincere, but her words were exactly the same as Ethan's, implying that I was a mean person and was judging others by others' expectations. But am I really overthinking it? Why did they still call each other so intimately after breaking up, and even had a hint of pride in their accusing eyes? When Ethan knew about this that day, he did not have any emotional dissatisfaction with Chloe, nor did he do anything. He just raised his hand and swore again and again that he would keep his distance from Chloe and have no relationship with her outside of work. But later facts proved that men's promises were unbearable. On the anniversary of the 2nd year of marriage, Chloe had gastritis. When she was sent to the hospital for treatment, she held him and refused to let him go. Ethan comforted me on the phone, "Lena, Chloe has no relatives here. She can only rely on us when she is sick. Don't be willful. I will give you another grand anniversary when the time comes." When he said these words, he had no idea that I had been sitting in the coffee shop where we first met for more than 2 hours in the cold. In the 3rd year of marriage, which is this year, Chloe rushed into Ethan's office with a call from the United States and said that her mother had been found. A friend saw someone who looked like her mother in the United States, and she wanted to go find her. Ethan was afraid that it would be unsafe for her to go alone, so he took a leave to accompany her. I threw his clothes out of the suitcase one by one and did not allow him to go out. Ethan looked at me tiredly, without the slightest guilt. "He educated me like a father, Lena. Chloe has been without a father since she was a child. Her mother was abducted abroad when she was a child. She is very pitiful. You have a family and me who love you, but she has nothing. Don't be willful. I will accompany her to find her family and come back. Chloe has been without a father since she was a child, but I have also been without a father since I was a child. Don't you know this best? It's different. You have me, and I will always love you, but now you are going to Chloe. Ethan, if you go with her, we will divorce." I threatened him from behind, hoping that he would turn around, but unfortunately he didn't. Ethan treated my words as a child's temper, and said whatever he wanted. He closed the door without looking back, and the only response I got was the ruthless door slamming and the strong wind outside the door. Ethan left me then left. And a few hours after he left, I encountered the most terrible thing in my life. On the day I could be discharged from the hospital, Ethan appeared at the door of the ward. It had been 3 days since I sent the divorce agreement. After not seeing him for a few days, he seemed to be a little sloppy, with blue stubble on his chin and slightly red eyes, as if he hadn't slept for a few days. Didn't he sleep better when he met Chloe? Seeing me looking at him, he was so excited that he opened his arms to hug me, but I dodged him. His hands were awkwardly fixed there, and then he changed to pull me, but his eyes became more and more red, and he sighed tiredly. "Honey, please don't be angry, why don't you answer my call? I have been worried about you these days." Angry? I chewed these 2 words calmly, without any temper, only the movement of my hands continued. The phone is broken. Ethan followed my gaze and saw the broken screen phone on the bed. His tone couldn't help but rise. It's okay, I'll take you to buy a new one. After that, he helped me clean up, his movements were neat and fast, and his eyes were no longer uneasy as before. I watched him in silence for a while, and didn't move. I sat on the bed and watched him clean up. When he finished and zipped up, I asked him, if you think the divorce agreement is okay, we will go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Ethan's hands paused, no movement, his eyes suppressed his emotions and joked, nonsense, we won't get divorced. I saw the report that day. I'm sorry, I thought you called me just to threaten me. Lena, I'm sorry, I was wrong, please don't be angry. He lowered his posture like a pleading, and pulled me out without waiting for me to speak. But in the parking lot, I saw the face I least wanted to see. Chloe sat in the passenger seat of the car, putting on delicate makeup. Her rosy cheeks compared to my haggard face after just being discharged from the hospital, it was really a big blow. Lena, I'm so glad you're okay. You don't know that Ethan was worried about you these days abroad. If you didn't answer the phone, he wouldn't have run back despite his fever. It was me who stopped him last night and asked him to rest first, otherwise it would be bad to pass the disease on to you. By the way, get in the car quickly. I will get carsick if I sit in the back. You won't mind sitting in the front, right? Chloe said a series of words to herself, and I only noticed the words that Ethan came back last night. He came back last night and only appeared today. In these 10 hours, he and Chloe stayed together. Chloe, stop talking. Ethan stopped her with a slightly cold look. Chloe pouted her lips in grievance, lowered her misty eyes and said aggrievedly, Ethan, why are you so mean to me? I am telling the truth. Ethan ignored her and defended himself anxiously. Lena, Chloe is also concerned about you. She knew you were injured and felt bad, so she wanted to come to the hospital to see you, so I brought her along, that's all. Don't be angry, I'll help you put away your luggage, let's go home, okay? Ethan said in a low voice, then opened the back door and tried to help me get in the car. I didn't move, and looked at the person in front of me carefully. His eyebrows and eyes were still the same as I liked before, but I felt that they were getting uglier and uglier, and there was panic in his eyes, which made him look so guilty. I took the luggage from his hand and planned to leave. Now I didn't even feel like saying a word to him. Tell me if you have signed the divorce agreement, and you don't have to do anything else. Don't think I'm just saying this in anger. I said the other day that if you go with her, we'll get divorced. As for you, you can sit in the passenger seat if you want. If sitting in the passenger seat makes you feel like a mistress becoming the first wife, then you'd better stick to it with glue and don't get off. My words made Chloe, who was still a little proud, turn black in an instant. Her angry face and Ethan's panicked look were both very ugly. I won't divorce you. Chloe and I are really not what you think. I just want to help her so that I can have a clear conscience towards her. Lena, you can't accuse me of something you don't know. It's unfair to me. Ethan excitedly pulled my hand to explain, anxious as if I had really wronged him. A slight sob interrupted his action. Chloe's face, which had just been put on makeup, was stained by tears. She was so aggrieved that she wanted to say something but stopped. Ethan, are you so anxious to sever our relationship? Ethan looked at her and fell silent, his throat bitter and silent. I looked at his dilemma and laughed sarcastically, trying to break free from his hand, but I couldn't. Let me go, disgusting. I was so angry that I hit him with my other hand, and the sound of a snap resounded in the parking lot. Ethan turned his face away, and the slightly red palm print made him unbelievable. He didn't say anything, but Chloe couldn't sit still, opened the door and wanted to get out of the car. Lena, what's wrong with you? Ethan has done something to let you down, you want to hit him. Her distressed eyes hung on Ethan, as if the slap was on her face. I slammed the door shut, blocking her in the car, and sneered at Ethan. You keep saying that you have a clear conscience towards her. Why didn't you pay off your guilt towards her before I met you? Is it you who caused her family to be in trouble, or is it me? Why should I know about the dirty things between you two? You said you don't want a divorce, but Ethan, do you really love me? From the time you entered the hospital until now, have you ever asked me where I feel uncomfortable? How did I get the wound on my head? Or do you want to pay me back after you've paid off your guilt towards Chloe? Ethan's expression suddenly drooped as if I had hit the nail on the head, but he still wanted to argue. No, it's not like that. I interrupted him coldly. Ethan, I don't need your guilt after the fact, I just want to divorce you now. I emphasized the word divorce. As if he finally realized my determination, Ethan's eyes were completely red. He wanted to talk but was interrupted by the ringing of my phone. I looked at the name on it and answered the call in front of them. After my broken phone broke, I couldn't adjust the volume, so I turned it on to hear clearly. The voice on the other end of the phone was still as warm as in the hospital. Miss Lena, you are discharged today. I'll pick you up. You still need to go to the office to confirm a few details about the divorce. Are all lawyers nowadays so dedicated that they even go to clients' homes in person? I was embarrassed and was going to refuse, but seeing Ethan's persistence, I agreed. Okay, come on, I'm in parking lot B of the hospital. Less than 2 minutes after I hung up the phone, Lawyer Henry arrived at the parking lot, so fast that it seemed like he had been waiting in the hospital for a long time. He took my luggage and put it in the trunk, then opened the passenger door for me. I wanted to sit in the back seat, but I sat in it. Lena, you can't go with him. I don't agree to divorce. Ethan's emotions burst out, and his voice was a little trembling. He stretched out his hand to pull me out of the car, but someone stopped him first. Lawyer Henry stood in front of me and handed me his business card calmly. Mr. Ethan, I am the lawyer entrusted by Miss Lena to help her deal with the divorce case. My name is Henry. From today on, you can talk to me about all matters related to the divorce, and I can relay them. The gentle voice was a little contemptuous, and he did not flinch at Ethan's anger, and his attitude was neither humble nor arrogant. Lena, who do you think you are? It is not your turn to interfere in my wife and I. We will not divorce. If you continue to talk nonsense and instigate, believe it or not, I will file a complaint and dismantle your law firm. Ethan has been in the business for a long time. His cold eyes can scare away many people, and he is capable of doing what he wants. Henry did not get too entangled with him, but just said coldly, Mr. Ethan, if he has such great ability, we are always waiting for you. After that, he started the car and left, leaving Ethan, whose face was as black as coal, kicking the car door fiercely, frightening Chloe to jump out of the car to comfort him. After finishing my work at the law firm, I stood at the gate thinking about where I wanted to go. Why haven't you gone back yet? A familiar voice sounded behind me. Henry stood behind me with an umbrella, his dark eyes seemed to be analyzing my situation. I turned my head and looked at the rainy and cloudy sky, and raised the corners of my mouth helplessly. I didn't bring an umbrella. Where are you going? I can take you. I just happened to be going out for a trip. Henry looked at me inquiringly. No, I'm going to the homestay opened by my family. It's by the sea, and it's not on the way to Lawyer Henry. You have helped me a lot. No trouble. I refused embarrassedly, and ran out quickly when I saw a taxi on the side of the road that wanted to drop off passengers. My hand was suddenly pulled, and an umbrella was stuffed into my palm. Take the umbrella with you. You just got out of the hospital, so don't get wet in the rain. If you get sick, you will have to postpone this business, he said seriously, and walked towards the parking lot, letting the drizzle wet his expensive suit. I looked at the slightly warm umbrella in my hand, and took back the heartwarming feeling of the first half of the sentence. The taxi went straight to a small hotel owned by my mother on the beach. This is what she said she made for her retirement after I got married. There were few guests at the rainy seaside, and the lobby of the small hotel was quiet and cold. Only a woman was obsessively working on her computer, calculating various numbers skillfully. Perhaps she was too obsessed with those numbers that represented money, and she didn't even know that I pushed the door and walked in front of her. I sighed softly, breaking the silence in the air. Mom, I want to divorce Ethan. What? I don't agree. My mother opposed my decision without hesitation. How long have you been married to Ethan? Are you going to divorce? He is such an excellent person, where can you find him if you leave him? Her reaction was as I expected. My mother doesn't love me. The moment I was abandoned by my scumbag father, I, who have the same blood, was also drawn with an equal sign. I was beaten and scolded since I was a child, but I still rely on her and hope that she treats me well. I know she loves money, and when I was able to work, I worked hard to make money for her, but she still never praised me. The only time she praised me was when I brought Ethan home. When Ethan came to marry me with a sky-high gift, my mother's eager and excited eyes wished she could hold a wedding for me directly. That's why she is so excited now. She persuaded me from Ethan's perspective with emotion and reason. It's normal for men to be confused sometimes, and didn't Ethan also say that there was nothing shameful between him and Chloe? Can't you be more generous? I looked at her with a slightly cold look, and caught the information point from her words, and asked in a cold tone, he called you, didn't he? Yes, he also confessed on the phone, saying that he shouldn't leave when you were in such danger. You see, he knows he was wrong. You should stop while you are ahead. Besides, Lena, you are not good at anything. If you divorce Ethan, will your life be as good as it is now? In the end, my mom just couldn't bear to part with this rich son-in-law. I looked at the newly renovated lobby of the small hotel and said sarcastically, Mom, the decoration of the small hotel cost a lot of money, right? Did Ethan pay for it? My mother was silent, and her expression was a little guilty. Yes, when I came to see her again, I actually knew what the result would be, but I still held a glimmer of hope, hoping that she would feel sorry for my experience and fight Ethan for me, or look at my wounds and comfort me, but nothing happened. My mother has not changed, and has always been a person who loves money more than family. Picking up the luggage, I looked at her with cold eyes and said to her word by word, I am not here to ask for your opinion, I just want to inform you that I want to divorce him. If you still want money from him in the future, you can pay it back yourself. Looking at her angry face, I walked out of the store without paying any attention. Not long after I went out, my mother hit me on the back with a broom. I sat on the ground in pain, and the old and new injuries made my expression very painful. "If you dare to divorce me, I'm not your mother, and don't come to me anymore," she said, throwing the broom at me and walking back to the store without any hesitation or reluctance. The cool wind blew, making my face hurt. I looked at the locked store door. This is the so-called family that loves me. There were not many people at the beach in the drizzle, so no one watched my embarrassment at the moment. My palms were supporting the wet sand, and tears were falling on them drop by drop. My chest was so uncomfortable that I had to breathe deeply to feel better. The sand in my hands was particularly irritating, leaving red marks on my palms. I wanted to pat it clean, but it became stickier and stickier. It is said that the sand that cannot be held is fine if it is blown away. This sand that can be held is still irritating my hands, so why do I need it? A white palm appeared in my blurred vision. After seeing the face of the person clearly, I pushed it away with a wry smile. "If possible, I really don't want to see you every time when you are in the most embarrassing situation." I went back to the small apartment I bought before marriage and slept all night. When I got up to drink water, Ethan called me. I hesitated for a few seconds and answered it. On the other end of the phone, his voice was hazy, with a little bit of coquettish meaning. "Wife, my head hurts so much, can you pick me up?" Listening to this coquettish drunken talk, my brows frowned. After marriage, Ethan was like this when he drank. He would show his harmless side and act like a spoiled child and ask me to take him home. No matter what time it was, I would get dressed and go out immediately, and even prepare hangover soup for him out of pity. But when I think about it, Ethan didn't seem to get drunk very often. Most of the time, it was after Chloe appeared. Maybe the inability to give up his old love made him suffer. Thinking of this, my tone softened. "Okay, I'll pick you up when you agree to divorce." I hung up the phone, turned off the phone and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, a pair of slightly cold hands reached into the quilt and held my face. I woke up alertly and looked at the person in front of me in horror. In the dim light of the night light, Ethan looked at me with a face full of grievance. "Wife, you didn't come to pick me up, so I came here by myself." I wondered how he got in, but suddenly realized that I hadn't had time to change the password of the apartment. I saw him take off his shoes and was about to go to bed. I stretched out my foot and kicked him hard, and Ethan fell under the bed in embarrassment. "Leave me now, or I'll call the police." I drove him away in a cold tone, but Ethan seemed to be touched by my words. He stood up from the ground and pressed me down on the bed. He held my body with one hand and held my hands with the other hand. His two dark eyes stared at me, warning me that his patience was exhausted. "Lena, what do you want me to do to stop making trouble?" I apologized and I know I was wrong. "Why can't you forgive me? Am I really so evil?" "Yes, it's my problem that I wasn't there when you were in danger. I was very sad when I found out. I wanted to fly back to you immediately, but I couldn't abandon Chloe who was in an unfamiliar place. I couldn't do it. Why can't you think about it from my perspective?" Ethan's voice got louder and louder, as if he was the one who was wronged and hurt. "If an apology is useful? Do we still need the law?" I was disgusted by his words. The alcohol-smelling words made my stomach feel uncomfortable. I raised my foot to kick him, but he dodged it easily. His knees pressed on my legs, and I became even angrier. "Ethan, let me go, you are breaking the law, do you know that?" Hearing this, Ethan suddenly sneered, and his aggrieved expression disappeared. He changed his hands that were pressing down on my body to caressing me, but his eyes were full of danger. Just when I thought he was going to get angry and kill someone because of losing his mind after drinking, Ethan's lips fell on my face. "Wife, you are wrong. It is not illegal to do things between husband and wife." I looked at him with wide eyes, and the next second his hands tore my pajamas apart. This similar scene reminded me of what the wanted criminal did, and my fear and terror rushed to my body instantly. When the fine and dense kisses fell on my neck, I collapsed. "No, let me go, I beg you to let me go." I struggled fiercely, using all my strength to survive. When I kicked Ethan in the vital part, he let go of me in pain. I picked up the phone on the bedside and ran desperately towards the door, but the phone that was still slowly turning on didn't seem to be my savior. When Ethan caught up with me, the door of the apartment was kicked open. I saw Henry in casual clothes appear at the door, and his handsome face was no longer as calm as before. He kicked Ethan, then squatted down and looked at me worriedly. "Are you okay?" I looked at him and nodded as if asking for help. He put his coat on me, and then pulled Ethan to beat him. Ethan, who was drunk, was no match for him, and was finally beaten unconscious on the ground. After Henry called the police came. Under his clear explanation, the police dragged Ethan away on the charge of trespassing. In the messy house, I huddled in the corner of the sofa, and my body was still shaking uncontrollably. Henry put a cup of warm water in my hand and then started to help me clean up the house. I looked at his back and said to myself, "I always meet you when I'm in the most embarrassing time, but today, thank you so much." Henry's back paused for a moment, and he replied in a gentle voice, "No need." I didn't have the energy to ask Henry why he suddenly appeared, and he didn't explain. When the sky was approaching dawn, I slowly fell asleep on the sofa, but was awakened by a rapid knock on the door. The door that Henry repaired last night was now being banged by someone outside. I looked at the clean and tidy house and the coat I was wearing. Henry left after repairing the door last night without saying anything extra. It was the first time I met such a frugal person, as if he had nothing extra to say except work. After changing my clothes, I opened the door. Chloe, with a ferocious look on her face, squeezed in to hit me, but I quickly grabbed her hand. Lena, what do you mean? Even if you want to divorce Ethan, there is no need to let the police arrest him. Did he break the law? And you let people beat him up? Is your heart made of iron? Ethan must be blind to fall for someone like you. I met someone who came to my house to cause trouble early in the morning. I felt that my patience was gone. Together with the anger I suffered last night, I raised my hand and slapped Chloe. Chloe screamed and stepped back with her face covered. Yes, he is breaking the law, and I tell you, you are breaking the law now. Since you can't leave him, I will send you to meet him. I picked up my phone and called the police in front of Chloe's incredulous eyes. The police acted quickly. After I firmly said that Chloe broke into a private house, they took me and Chloe to the police station to take a statement in a fair manner. When we arrived at the police station, Ethan also walked out on bail from his lawyer. His face was full of marks from being beaten last night, with purple circles under his eyes and red and swollen face and mouth corners. Chloe saw this and greeted him distressedly, caring about his injuries, and not forgetting to use her eyes to stab me. When Ethan saw me, he avoided me with a guilty look, and there was no entanglement in the past few days. I snorted in my heart, he deserved it. I calmed down the discomfort in my heart and walked up to him. Let's talk. In the coffee shop, I took out the divorce agreement from my bag and put it on the table. Sign it, it's good for both you and me. When he touched the big words on it, Ethan's originally calm expression changed. He wanted to hold my hand, but I dodged him. Sensing my resistance, Ethan retracted his hand like a child admitting his fault. Lena, I was wrong last night. I shouldn't have done this to you when I was drunk. You can hit me or scold me, but don't divorce me, okay? I was tired of listening to his arguments, so I opened the photos on my phone and handed them to him. Do you think we can still be together after you did this? Ethan took the phone and flipped through it. The screen of the phone was broken, but it didn't affect his ability to see the content of the photos clearly. I saw his eyes gradually widen, and his expression became confused and unbelievable. Lena, listen to my explanation. I didn't do anything. Who sent these photos to you? He tried his best to defend himself. Can't you tell who sent them to me at a glance? This photo was taken by Chloe in the hotel on the night he and Chloe went to the United States. In the photo, the two of them were lying on the bed in pajamas. Ethan was already asleep, and Chloe was leaning on him with a happy face. Although this photo cannot prove whether anything happened between the two, he went abroad with Chloe, and he acquiesced to Chloe entering the room and even acquiesced to her staying by his side. Does this kind of thing need further investigation? No, these were all taken by Chloe. Nothing really happened between her and me. Please believe me. I interrupted him coldly. Ethan, do you dare to swear that you have no selfish motives since you let Chloe stay with you? You keep saying that you feel guilty about Chloe, but you clearly know that her family of origin was like that when she met you. Since it was not caused by you, why do you feel guilty? You let her get in between us because of guilt. If your sense of justice is overflowing, why don't you feel guilty about me? Is my family of origin much better than hers? Through some simple inquiries, I learned everything about him and Chloe from Ethan's friends. Ethan's so-called guilt towards Chloe is just because Ethan was going to be sent abroad by his family, and Chloe broke up with him out of anger. In the end, when it came true, she committed suicide and was half dead when she was rescued. Unfortunately, Ethan happened to study abroad at this time. When he returned to China, he knew about Chloe's situation. When he chased and inquired, Chloe had already left the city with her relatives, and the two missed each other. Later, after meeting and falling in love with me, I gradually forgot about it, but after meeting Chloe, it revived. I'm tired of my nagging behavior for 3 years, and now I just want to leave you cleanly. So, you sign it. I pushed the divorce agreement in front of him. Ethan opened it with trembling hands, but his lips moved with difficulty. Is there really no room for us to save it? I shook my head. Seeing this, Ethan gritted his teeth and signed the divorce agreement. In the law firm, I waited in the reception room with my coat. Henry and his assistant were discussing the case outside the door. After they finished, he found me waiting. I quickly raised my coat and waved it, with a smile on my face. Lawyer Henry, this is your coat and my commission fee. I handed over the coat and envelope. Henry just took the coat and didn't take the envelope. Miss Lena, we need to reconcile the commission fee. You can just contact our staff directly. And your divorce does not need to be resolved through a lawsuit, so we don't need to charge such a high commission fee. He looked at the thickness of the envelope and explained gently. This? Actually, I had selfish motives. I wanted to thank him for showing up that day to help me. But Henry and I were not familiar with each other, so it was a bit strange to ask him to have a meal. He helped me a lot, and after thinking about it, I still felt that it was best to solve it with money. After all, what workers care about most is making money. I also feel the same way. However, the other party seemed to have different ideas from mine. I took back the envelope awkwardly. I miscalculated. Sorry, I will ask your company staff to clarify. Have you dealt with your matter? Henry suddenly asked. I nodded and breathed a sigh of relief. It's just the last step. Thank you for your help during this period. I am very grateful, I thanked sincerely. Looking at Henry's calm eyebrows, I asked the question that I didn't ask that day. Lawyer Henry, I want to ask you why you showed up at my house that day? Not only did he show up, but the timing was just right. He even knew which floor and apartment I lived in. My commission information was written as the place where I lived after marriage, not a single apartment. If I hadn't seen Henry as a very serious person, I would have suspected that he had investigated me. Seeing my eyes full of doubts, Henry sighed faintly, because I live there. 5 years ago, a drunk crazy woman who went to the wrong floor fell asleep at my doorstep and was sent back by me. I almost ran out of the law firm like a dog. After running a long way, I breathed heavily. It's really embarrassing. I never thought that Henry lived in the same apartment as me, and it happened to be someone I harassed before. What a fate that was. This was so embarrassing. A month later, I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau holding the red divorce certificate. The bright and sunny sky seemed to be celebrating my new rebirth, and I smiled comfortably. Ethan stood beside me, looking at me with complicated and reluctant eyes. Lena, can you please not block my contact, so that I can see you? No, a qualified ex should be like dead, there is no need to have such deep affection. I rejected him without giving him face. Ethan pursed his lips, his eyes full of guilt. Then can I hug you, as if it is the last farewell? I looked at him, smiled more happily than ever before, and finally stretched out my right hand and waved, goodbye. Under Ethan's reluctant gaze, I left happily. Although I have experienced many difficulties, it feels so good to see the rainbow after the disaster. I am very happy, but some people are not happy. At work, Chloe took a loudspeaker to make trouble downstairs of my company. Lena, you bitch, it's all because of you. Ethan kicked me out of the company. You vicious woman, why did you do this? You have already divorced him, why did you let him treat me like this? Come out. If you have the guts, come out and explain it to me, otherwise I will shout downstairs of your company all day today. I don't have a job, and you don't want to work either. I watched the crazy woman downstairs grinding her teeth and recorded her curses one by one. When the boss was about to lose his temper, I called the police and the police took Chloe away. When I was taking notes at the police station, I said firmly, I will sue her for personal insult and defamation. What nonsense are you talking about? When did I insult you personally? I handed over the recording with a sneer. The police who played the recording frowned as they listened to the ugly and dirty words in it. Chloe lowered her head more and more, and finally lost her arrogance. Finally, Chloe was detained. I looked at the lawyer who came at the door of the police station and took 2 steps back. But the man also took a step forward with his long legs. Lawyer Henry, what a coincidence, I didn't expect to meet you here. I smiled awkwardly, but I was cursing in my heart. I just called them to send a lawyer who could handle minor crimes. Why did Henry come? I saw a very shallow smile on Henry's official face. Unfortunately, I'm here to earn the commission I didn't earn. After saying that, he walked inside. I have to say that Henry's professional ability is strong and he helped me get the matter done in a short time. However, Chloe's crime was not serious enough, so she was only fined compensation and detained for 10 days. Chloe cried and shouted to call Ethan to save her, but after listening to the police's description of the incident, Ethan just said lightly that it was just a matter of official business, which completely cut off Chloe's expectations. She cried and wanted to find Ethan, but was mercilessly carried in by 2 female police officers. Although Chloe was arrogant, being detained for 20 days was already hell for her, but I still felt a little upset when she scolded me so harshly. When I returned to the company and looked at my colleagues' inquiring eyes, I sighed and thought, why not give myself a vacation? After taking the annual leave, I was about to leave the apartment with my luggage, but I met Henry who had returned on the first floor. He looked at my luggage with a strange look. What are you doing? I'm going to travel for a while to relax, I explained. Yeah, it's good, he said, and then he entered the elevator, but the voice sounded again, aren't you going to change your phone? I took out the newly bought phone from my bag and shook it with a smile. I changed it. The old does not go away, and the new does not come, just like my new life, with a brand new look and expectations. The story is over. If you like the stories I made, please like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next story.